Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge isupport nothando nesikhombise lona lingaphezulu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisupporte njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla.
Yes, Chair. From my side, there was Miss Ngobe's Zuma. I can't see her in the meeting anymore unless if she has used a different gadget or any other member from March and March
I'm
is
here.
in the meeting. Oh, okay. No, she's here, Chairperson.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ngobese Zuma and your team. We really appreciate for responding to the invitation on the matter you have raised with the Speaker of the National Assembly through the memorandum, and it was referred to us. I'm sure you have captured how we've processed this subject matter. It's an opportunity to comment or raise some of the issues as a result of this response. Ms. Zuma, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair, and greetings to the honorable members. I'd like to firstly thank you all for affording us this opportunity. We had submitted this memorandum with the hopes that we would get a chance to actually be given this platform, and it is very much appreciated. I'm just going to give a quick outline of who March and March is, just so the members can understand who we are. March and March is actually a movement that started on social media where South Africans were raising a number of concerns when it came to illegal immigration and the effects of it. We gained traction when there was the spaza shop deaths for the little children, and also there was a number of kidnappings that were continuously being reported every week. That is when we decided that it's not time for us to sit back and it's time for us now to do something, and we wanted to act. We wanted to march, but we realized that marching doesn't give much of an impact if it's a one-day event, if I can call it an event. We have gone across the country trying to forge relationships with the police, with border management, with home affairs departments, with schools, with hospitals, the health departments, etc. And all of this is in the hopes that one day our voices will be heard as South Africans. So much as much is really South Africans that have come together and said they no longer want to be spectators. They want to be on the ground doing what is right to save the country. Upon observation, we realized that there's a lot of our resources that are being abused, and in terms of that, it ended up costing a lot of South Africans in hospitals where they would end up in queues, and some would end up even dead because they're not getting the resources that they had been hoping to get. In schools, it's the same problems that we're getting, and all of these we're getting on email. In SASA and grants places, it's the same when it comes to social grants. I mean, we've even received complaints from people who are at homes, these homes that keep children, that a lot of people who are illegal immigrants just go there and they drop their children in the hopes that those children become documented South Africans. And it's a common thing now. People can come from certain countries with certain illnesses and just walk into our borders and get help or get the documents that they want, especially with the assistance of Home Affairs officials. And it's disappointing for me. I would have hoped that the minister would have been here to hear us out, because I feel like this is where his responsibility and duty comes in the most, because he is the image of this department, and the language that he communicates to the public and his posture when it comes to the issue of illegal immigrants is very important, because that is how people who are in the country legally respond when they know what government is saying. When we say it as South Africans, we get abused, we get hurled with insults, we get called names. It's we are labeled as xenophobic, because currently in the country, it seems that South Africans are the ones who must be oppressed for other people from other countries to come and thrive in this country. And we want to say that we can no longer afford this. And so I'm appealing to you as members of parliament to really take this matter as seriously as the future of yourself and your children as well. Because currently at the rate things are going, we're not going to have a country for our children. And the saddest thing is we keep toying around the legalities of it. And I was very happy to hear that there is some acknowledgement of the issue that our laws contradict themselves. And that is where our biggest problem is. Because right now the government is toying around and creating a fertile ground for violence where South Africans feel like they are not heard. And, there's people who are from non-South Africans who are on social media taunting us every single day, telling us we're not going anywhere, your laws are weak, there's nothing that you can do to us, etc., you're not the government, etc. And these are the exact issues that need to touch us personally as South Africans, more than it should touch us as people who are playing a specific role. So I really do call upon all South Africans right now, especially yourselves as decision makers, to really prioritize this issue, because this now is the biggest crisis that we have in the country. People with no jobs are looking for this particular portfolio committee to do the right thing and enforce laws that are going to be so serious that they're going to force people who are here looking for jobs or getting jobs and they're not South Africans to actually go about it the right way, because we can't be importing poverty from all other countries and saying people must just come in here and sell on tables because they have rights and their dignity and their human rights are important. All human rights are important, but they cannot supersede the existence of the country. They can't be more important than the existence and the protection of South Africa and South Africans. I'm going to touch a little bit on some of the issues that we've noted after we've sent the memorandum, and I do appreciate that the memorandum has been acknowledged and some of the issues touched on. But we've realized that there's a serious failure to enforce the mandatory reporting by the organs of states. Now, this includes schools, clinics, hospitals under Section 42, which legally obliges them to make sure that if there's a person who's in the country legally, that person is reported. But the contradiction comes in again where schools are saying if a person or a child is undocumented, then they must automatically put the responsibility at the hands of the school to go and document the child. How did the child come into the country is not questioned anymore, because suddenly the rights of the child are more important than the rights of a South African child who could be very well not getting a space in school because this child came from this other country and just decided to start a life. So that is very important for us, for the effects of these laws and the high emphasis on people who are not South Africans getting their human rights prioritized over that of South Africans. We have children today who don't have spots in schools, teachers complaining that they're teaching 70 children, other parents complaining that they have to go to other places and other parts of where they live in order to get a school for their children because there's no space. It's being occupied, it's been taken. Even people dying in hospitals because these organs of states have a duty to report these people. But they also complain. They say when we report, we get told that they have rights and their rights are important to be protected. So maybe it's time that all organs of states now are told what is the right way to go about reporting people who are illegal immigrants. And there's no way to monitor them at the moment. How are hospitals reporting illegal immigrants? You get there, nurses are saying, no, we can't report them because we're told that ethically we have to serve everyone. But at the end of the day, it also says that they have a duty to report them. So how are we choosing what's the right thing to do and what's not, and what is more important legally and what's not? So we've got a serious crisis when it comes to that, and we'd like for the department to answer on how are these organs of state reporting people that they see as non-South Africans who are not carrying the right documents, who are fraudulently occupying other people's IDs, etc., which is something that we've seen because it's becoming a normal thing. So we also would like to find out that there was the 2023 parliamentary findings from the Portfolio Committee that the task team that was investigating visas and permits on the June 2023, they came back with findings that there's a lot of corruption that comes with visas and handing out of permanent residency to people who are non-South Africans. And there was even a finding that students who are here from prominent universities like Fort Hare are getting study visas, but they're not actually here to study. Or they have study visas, they stay for a year, study in South Africa, and then it becomes a permanent thing. They no longer leave. Sometimes they no longer even complete their degrees. And we haven't heard a report on what was done with these universities, what is done with the entire concept of visas and residency and permits being handed over to people here in South Africa. Is there a limit? Is there a cap? It goes back to the same issue of refugees and asylum seekers. Is there a number that can be limited to? Because remember, we cannot have a country that's currently sitting on poverty, unemployment, overstretched resources, and we keep on extending our refugees and we keep wanting to feed everyone who's got problems in their own countries. In as much as it's a good thing to have Ubuntu, but we cannot run the country on Ubuntu. We have to run it by prioritizing these people who have no other country, and that's us as South Africans. These other people, their countries can wake up one morning and they're prospering and they can quickly run back to where they come from. We don't have that option. Africa is our first and our only option. And then also we've noted that there's no consequent management when it comes to the monitoring compliance and the enforcement of Section 42, which we had mentioned gives people a responsibility to go and report people they're seeing that they're in the country legally. There's no number, for example, which would make it easy for people to say, there's the number that I can call, and this is the person, it's my neighbor, it's this person. Can the departments swiftly act? Because a lot of these people who are in the country now are portraying criminal elements. It's no longer, as people used to think before, that it's people who are poor, who need help. A lot of them are becoming criminals, and we've noted this because I'm going to detail something from our experience as March and March, where we had a family in KwaMashu call us because they were like, we're tired of this person occupying our home. But every time we try and evict them, this person will call izinkabi, which are killers, to come to us and threaten us and tell us that they don't want to leave yet and they are protected. So the idea is that these people who come in as refugees or asylum seekers are now setting up tuck shops everywhere, and I think it's something we all know. We've seen a number of South Africans complaining that their tuck shops have either been threatened to close down, they have burnt them down. I know a guy personally from Pretoria whose tuck shop was burnt down in Orange Farm. Well, it's not Pretoria, in Orange Farm. And he said that they had been threatening him for a long time, and he reported this, and he still didn't get any help. These are the Ethiopians and Somalians who are now taking over the tuck shop business and using scare tactics and killing people and threatening them and burning down their shops. But until now, we don't understand why do we keep extending refugee and asylum seeker permits to these people, because they are not here on good intentions. I am yet to see many of them go out and progressively prosper the country and do it in the right way without trying to take over and do criminal activities. And this is a cause for concern for us as South African citizens. And the other question we have is that we know these places that they live in. We know, for example, that there's a Point Road in Durban where it's dominated by Nigerians. People complain of crime, they complain of the drugs there, but we've never seen the department actively going there to root out these people from their places, to remove them from the comfort of creating organized places where they can carry on organized crime, because it's putting our lives at risk as South Africans. And we'd appreciate it if the department is having these operations, if they can go to those areas, create a sense of respect for the laws of our countries, because we know that they do not respect the laws of our country. And every time we as an organization go to the department and we identify these places, we receive a response that says we do not have enough capacity in order to take over or to carry out these operations, because there's only 860 immigration officers in the whole country. And for us, it scares us that you can be sitting on a crisis where there's millions of people that we don't know what the actual number is in the country, and there's no urgent solution that is being recommended that speaks of the sense of danger that the country is in. As we've seen bombs coming in, we've seen illegal mining, we've seen cash in transit heists, and many other sorts of crimes that have been committed by people that are not identifiable. Moyo recently shot the police, he runs away, he's not identified, he still comes back, he's found, he's caught, still runs away. It speaks of a country that is lawless, unfortunately, and a system that doesn't speak to the people and protecting its own people. And we ask the department again to be the one that takes this matter into their own hands, because this is the department that has been tasked not to hand out visas or IDs or birth certificates or marriage certificates, etc., but the protection of the country is mostly with the Home Affairs Department and the National Defense Force, which is also in crisis at the moment. And we also ask, as I'm quickly almost done, that this issue of capacity that we keep hearing, and the issue of the cost of deporting and building the border, we would like to address it in two ways. In terms of capacity, there's a lot of times that we've heard that the department doesn't have the capacity to carry out raids, as I mentioned, because there's not enough immigration officers, there's not enough money to build a border, there's not enough money to do A, B, C, D. And we would like to say that it's quite saddening and disheartening that people like ourselves, as much and much, will put ourselves forward to say, you don't have to pay us even a cent. But we don't get that same reception that says these are ordinary South Africans who are just concerned about the well-being of this country. They don't seek any money. They don't seek any form of anything. We just want to make sure that our children have a future. And we don't get a response from the Department of Home Affairs that is willing to listen to us, first of all, just to listen. And we don't get a reception of people who know that they have a crisis and would be happy to receive the assistance of the community. Because at the end of the day, it's the community that needs to root these people out to make sure that they don't get comfortable in being in the country illegally in partnership with the department. However, what we see is a number of corrupt officials at the Home Affairs Department prospering and being known for being corrupt. People are reporting that to us. We report it to Home Affairs, but we don't get a response that is that of an emergency, that is that of people who see that the country is in serious and dire need to get rid of people who are illegal immigrants and who are ruining this country. So we are putting ourselves forward once again and saying, instead of disempowering us and saying that you are not immigration officers, as we've been told, you can't do A, B, C, D. Why does the department not empower ordinary citizens in a way that they are also able not to fight, not to violently remove everyone, but to partner with the police as people who are assisting the department and removing these people from places that they are not supposed to be in? If there's no employment for illegal immigrants, they won't be here. If there's no schools that we're giving them access to, they won't be here. If there's no documentation that allows them to be South African, they won't be here. If there's no hospitals and clinics, there won't be an influx of them coming in to get medication. So ideally, we have created an environment that is enabling of illegal immigration. And then when the people or the citizens of the country complain, they are told that they are the ones that are wrong. And that is going to end up frustrating the citizens even more. And it's not going to help in solving the problem. So I am asking again for the Home Affairs Portfolio Committee to empower South Africans to be able to say, we are no longer happy with the influx of people who are danger to this country, who are stretching our resources, who are criminal elements, and we'd like for them to be removed in our communities and be able to allow us to be citizens of this country and only allow people in the country who are here to do good, but also review the documents that you've been given to people. Even if you gave someone a document as an asylum seeker, but they're not behaving as an asylum seeker, revoke those documents without fear or favor. They're here on a student visa. You see they are not doing the activities of a student. Remove those documents from them. Do not give out documents to people to walk around and do as they please, because currently we even have a March and March group overseas who are complaining that their visas of South Africa, the passports of South Africa, have become an element of fear even to international countries, because it's in the hands of Nigerians and it's in the hands of Zimbabweans or whoever is in the country and is doing wrong things. But when those people are caught, they have a South African passport, therefore they are identified as South Africans, and it makes us the country that is going to be at risk being sanctioned, of being stopped from coming to international countries because they perceive that behavior to be that of South Africans, when in actual fact, it's not. It's just the department that's given it to the wrong people, and our passport is in the wrong hands. So in the last and final closing, the issue of the cost of deportation and the border, our country has made it so sad to have a constitution that we once hailed as the best constitution in the world is now actively the one that is destroying us as South Africans. We as South Africans are oppressed by the very constitution that was meant to be for South Africans, because somehow, somewhere, people wherever decided to interpret it to be a constitution for the whole world, when the constitution of this country was meant to please the people of this country. So I'm asking the portfolio committee today that when there are certain laws or things that are being passed in terms of immigration or things that will affect the country, example, the one that uses the surnames of South Africans, where you can marry your husband and take your wife can take your husband's surname, or the husband can take the wife's surname. In a case like that, there are four couples that wanted to have that because they wanted to prosper their relationship somehow. I don't know. But it wasn't a thing where two couples wanted to take each other's surnames. Now, in hindsight, that sounds like something that's fine, where two people are loving each other and want surnames. But the ripple effects of it are now affecting our own cultures, our own tradition, our own values, where we know very well, we already had a crisis of South African women selling off our citizenship to foreigners. Now it's even worse, because now they get to take our surnames. I'm saying the department did not even argue in that matter, the Home Affairs Department, because when we read the papers, we saw that the minister did not make much submissions or oppositions to that. But we as South Africans, we didn't know that there was something like that happening. We were not given an opportunity to consult traditional leaders and our culture and whoever to have a say in the matter, because I'm telling you, in millions of South Africans, we would have rejected that, to say, you can't be doing that, because there's no culture in the world that says that people must be allowed to do that. And yes, of course, it is a choice. But the choice, remember, also opens up a floodgates for people who are here to do criminal activities to now be identified as South Africans with South African surnames. If that had to be done and people wanted to marry each other, there should have been a limitation to say it must be people who are married and who are South Africans and who are not seeking citizenship. There should have been rules in place that say, even if we give you that right, but here are the terms and conditions. We can't just have a blanket approach on everything when we know we've got an immigration crisis. It's not fair on South Africans. It's not fair on our culture. It's not fair on our practices. So I ask that every time we also have an issue that is of immigration status and can affect the whole country, can we as South Africans be given an opportunity to have a say in the matter? Because we are very unhappy about this issue. And also we are very unhappy about the documentation of children who are in schools. What about the South African children? Do they not deserve a proper education while we're trying to please people from other countries who've got their own governments? And if we are saying we want to take immigration seriously, currently, foreigners and illegal immigrants in general disrespect our government because they know they will always pay their way out. They'll go to Home Affairs, they'll pay people, they'll pay. And then also, when we are out on the streets, they'll tell us you're not immigration officers. They know there's no immigration officers. So I'm asking, is there no way that as a committee, we can find a way to say anyone who is found in the country illegally, and because they are repeat offenders, especially when it comes to the 90-day stamp, they go to the border, they get a stamp, they come back. They even now send the visas to the border to get stamped without the person actually going. But it's not meant to be a repeat stamp. It's meant to be a stamp to visit and go. But we know they're not visiting, they're staying. So in those cases, can we not find a way to find people who continuously break our laws and who continuously break our immigration acts? And these people have money. So that money can go towards fixing the border gates. It can also go towards deporting them, because we are currently paying for them to get free transport home and come back. And it's to the expense again of South Africans. People who are here in the country legally, they must be here for a reason. They are not broke, they are not poor. There's something that they're doing in the country that's making them to continuously stay in South Africa. They have money. And them having money ends up being to the detriment of South Africans, because now they feel like they're more entitled than we are. Can we ask that people who are in the country legally are fined? Even if it's a repeat offender, you fine them even more for being caught the second time, being in the country legally. Take that money, use it back to the South African department, and we're able to build a proper border, and we're able to be able to deport them with their own money. That's where I will end the chair. I think I've said a mouthful, but I really need to use this opportunity because I know a lot of South Africans have been bleeding internally when it comes to the issue of illegal immigration and illegal immigrants themselves, because they also have become a problem to us. It's no longer just the law. Even they themselves have become arrogant, they've become rude, they've become brazen, they've become criminals, and it goes on and on and on. And it needs to end, Chair. South Africa needs to be for South Africans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ngobese Zuma, for detailed supplementary issues on the memorandum that you have presented before us. This platform is also appreciated that we engage directly with stakeholders. So be comfortable on the issues that you are raising to the committee and also to the department. And we really appreciate that. Joint efforts are important to navigate complex issues that require the attention of Parliament. Members, I will request that we comment on the issues, both on the two reports, and then we'll then invite the team led by the Deputy Minister and the Border Management Authority to respond on some of those issues that are arising. Obviously, there are legislative process that we have not engaged on as Parliament or the committee. Ms. Ngobese raised a matter in relation to the court judgment that has been delivered recently in relation to the surnames. And we've not subjected that process to members of the public to comment. No, we've received amendments to that effect from Home Affairs. Once that we have received that process, we'll subject it to conversation of members as the process Parliament engage on. And then we know that all legislation that deals with migration are currently under review, as there's a white paper on citizenship, immigration, and protections of refugees. So it's an important piece of paper. Once a bill has been presented, that a conversation jointly with yourselves and all other stakeholders, citizens, will determine the course of a legislation that will envisage as the country in relation to these aspects. I will invite Honorable Mkhale, Honorable Rose, Honorable Ngubani, Honorable Bolman, Honorable Machi to comment on the two reports. Then we'll invite the department to respond, and we establish a way forward on how we must interface on the subject matters. Honorable Mkhale.
Thank you very much, Chair. I want to start off by saying that, Chair, last week we had a debate in Parliament which was introduced by Honorable Maki on this issue of illegal immigration and its impact on the government departments. And in that debate, Chairperson, our submission as the EFF was very clear that in dealing with this issue, we need to be factual, Chair. We need to be factual and not impulsive. Not impulsive or driven by political convenience to try to take advantage of the growing anti-foreigner sentiment which is rising in the country. As we are seeing, it's not just a South African phenomenon, but it's there in Europe, it's there in America. We have seen it. But we need to be grounded in facts. First of all, Chairperson, on the issue of the burden of illegal immigrants on the health system, are there statistics available that we can rely on to say this is the statistical evidence that demonstrates, that shows that indeed these people are having they are impacting the quality of service to such an extent that South Africans are no longer able to enjoy quality health services because of the burden of illegal immigrants? That is the question that we have asked. And Chairperson, I can tell you now that there's no evidence, there's no data that the Department of Health can give us now to demonstrate that. There's no evidence anywhere. We've also said, Chair, Home Affairs does not have the data on the number of illegal immigrants who are currently in the country. Stats SA does not have the data. No government department or entity has the data in terms of the number of illegal immigrants who are currently in the country. So we're all guessing, all of us, we're in the dark. None of us has an accurate, true reflection of this issue of illegal immigrants in terms of how many of they are currently in the country. We have submitted questions. We have asked the Minister of Home Affairs here on this platform and also in the form of written questions that we submit to Parliament. We have asked the Minister of Home Affairs whether he can guarantee that the illegal immigrants who are being arrested and deported out of the country, can he guarantee us that those people don't find their way back into the country? And you have heard the responses, Chair, that the Minister gave. There's no guarantee. But we are spending millions of rands to deport people who find their way back after a few months or a few weeks. So we have consistently said that it's a self-defeating exercise that we are engaged in. If the deterrence measures in place, such as in the form of the Border Management Agency, if the deterrence measures are weak, Chairperson, the deportation, we will continue to spend millions on deportation, but we will not resolve anything. Because the very same people we deport, they will find their way back into the country. But we know the challenge, Chair. The challenge at the end of the day is with National Treasury. The failure of National Treasury to allocate sufficient funding, not just for the Border Management Agency, but for other government departments within the security cluster. And of course, the social services cluster. And that has a real impact, Chair, in terms of what we're discussing now. Because as we speak now, Chairperson, the Border Management Agency, the organizational structure was supposed as 11,115 posts in terms of the organizational structure. But only 2,566 of those posts are filled. So how are you going to have an effective deterrence measure when National Treasury is not providing the funding that is needed to address this particular crisis? So that Chair, we want to highlight so that people don't opt for the easy targets, because it's very easy, Chair, to wake up and start attacking foreign nationals and blame them, when in fact it is the failure of government departments, and at the center of that failure, the failure of National Treasury to allocate the sufficient funding that is needed for the entities like PMA to be able to effectively discharge their duties. Having listened to Ms. Zuma make a presentation, Chairperson, my concern, Chair, is that they seem to be very much focused and obsessed with the African immigrants in particular. And that does not bode well for some of us, because it creates the picture, or it creates the image that this is is not really here to deal with the problem of illegal foreign national, but is mainly focused on fellow Africans who are here illegally in the country. Yes, we have them, Chairperson, they are here, they are illegal. We have them in the country, they are here, they entered illegally. But when the movements like this one and Dudula's Chair are seen to be focusing solely on African people who are here illegally, it's something that is very difficult for some of us to accept, Chair, because we know very well that there in Cape Town, there are a lot of these Europeans who came into this country, Chair, and who have overstayed their visas. Some of them have started businesses there in Cape Town, they are operating. But we don't hear much from such organizations targeting this particular group of people. But the target is mainly the African immigrants who are in this country illegally. So that, for some of us, Chair, it's a issue that is very difficult to accept. But in conclusion, Chair, The issue of illegal immigration, particularly in the SADC region, is not going to be resolved, Chair, if South Africa, and in particular the ANC government, continues to support the neighboring dictatorships that have plunged their countries into crisis. In Zimbabwe, in Tanzania recently, in Mozambique, and other parts of SADC. For as long as the ruling party explicitly or tacitly supports these governments, Chairperson, we will continue to have a massive inflow of people running away from those governments into South Africa. We can't support what ZANU-PF is doing in Zimbabwe, or the ANC can't support what ZANU-PF is doing in Zimbabwe, and then want to blame Zimbabweans running away from Zimbabwe, coming into South Africa as illegal immigrants or whatever, and put the blame solely on them. It is not fair, Chair. The problem is with those who are in support of those governments, who are failing to deal with them at the appropriate forums where they are supposed to communicate the displeasure of the South African people and the government on some of the issues that are happening there. So that is my contribution, Chair.
Very much, Honorable Mohale. Honorable Ruas.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to March and March. We welcome the opportunity to discuss this matter because it's an issue that affects South Africans very deeply and personally. But the DA believes in the rule of law. So as such, we stand firmly against illegal immigration as a violation of the Immigration Act and other laws. And we also reject the scapegoating of migrants in general or the use of violence against them. And so the DA and government is already combating illegal immigration with urgency by enforcing the rule of law, but also encouraging legal migration of tourists and investors. So what March and March has presented and requested of this committee is the debate on this matter as a priority issue in the parliamentary agenda. And we thank Honourable Marchi for bringing this to the National Assembly last week. Then there's a request for a committee to discuss border security failures. I think, Chair, we as a committee have extensively engaged with the BMA and on immigration matters, and we'll continue to do so on Friday with the South African Police. Then to address fraudulent document syndicates. So we've had an update on the Lubisi report and the tremendous progress that is going on there with the SIU. As well as what we're seeing for the first time now in many a year, and that is not only the termination of employment of corrupt officials involved in syndicates, but also their arrest. So actually following up and making sure that they are arrested for these crimes. Then the other request was about compliance with immigration laws, and certainly we've deliberated these in a lot of detail. With the Immigration Amendment Bill and the One-Stop Border Post Bill. And I think, Chair, there's a number of engagements that we've put in our midterm plan that addresses these things. In terms of the issues of children, what was mentioned about how foreign children of illegal immigrants often get assistance from social development, whereas South African children don't necessarily get afforded that same assistance. As well as so the issues of children in these cases, and the issues of ensuring that our borders are better protected. And then also, again, the other request was to summon the relevant ministers, including Home Affairs and Police, to account for progress. And this is happening on Friday, as I understand it. So, Chair, I think as a committee, these are matters that we have been seized with, all of the requests that have been made. We've had the meetings in this year, and we've engaged in a lot of detail. It's something that we are seized with, and we are engaging on a regular basis. Chair, I'd like to just touch on the two recommendations that were made. And the one was the strengthening of border security. And it was to ensure that our borders are more closely monitored to prevent the entry of undocumented individuals. I think, Chair, we've spoken at length about the strengthening of the Border Management Authority and the need for funding in that regard, as well as the encouraging progress that we see with some of the allocations in the adjusted budget, which is coming shortly. And Chair, we've also discussed we've heard about the 5-pillar strategy, which integrates intelligence gathering, visible policing, rapid response investigations, and interagency coordination. And I think we've seen a remarkable improvement in what is going on at our borders. For example, a 215% increase in the prevention of illegal border crossings in the last festive season. So 200% is not double, it's triple. And then the adoption of advanced technology. So the introduction of drones at 5 key points of entry to monitor irregular crossings and smuggling routes. And so the minister with the resources available and partnerships is introducing technology-driven border management. So this contributed to a further 63% increase in the prevention of illegal border crossings. Chair, but I think part of the matter is that the urgency of the Minister of Home Affairs is not being matched by other government departments. And this, Chair, as you know, is an issue that we will discuss on Friday. The 4,354 SAPS border officers that were supposed to be transferred to the BMA almost 3 years ago. And I used the analogy in the debate of Bafana rocking up to play Nigeria, but instead of fielding the 11 players that they could have, we field 1.5 players. So the number of border patrol persons that we have to help deal with this problem. And the question was, how on earth do you expect them to win? So we're expecting Minister Schreiber to tackle illegal immigration with 672 border officers when he's supposed to have 5,026. And so the issue has been raised in terms of the strengthening of border security. And I think this committee has been seized with that and taking SAPS to task in terms of ensuring that we are adequately funded, not only in terms of funding, but having the significant number of personnel to help to deal with issues on our borders. And then secondly, the deportation of illegal immigrants. So the swift deportation of illegal immigrants currently residing in South Africa. And Honourable Makhali has touched on that. I think we look at Operation New Broom, and this is taking the important step of internal immigration enforcement, especially in our metropolitan areas and our townships. So internal immigration enforcement operations surged from 383 before the minister came in to 1,415 in the year after he came in. And this is a 4-fold increase with the same number of officials that were there previously. And it shows that Minister Schreiber is serious about tackling illegal immigration. It also shows an opportunity loss. Because this is what it looks like when there's a political will to fix the system. And if you extrapolate that over a year, we would have had an extra 4,000 operations per year over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Would have reached a lot more places, but we can say would have, could have. And we have to look at the progress now and say that it is tremendously frustrating to know that there are a number of areas that are crying out, that are saying that Home Affairs must come. I think Operation New Broom has been a tremendous success where it has been rolled out. It does cost money. There is the will to do that. But I think the minister has shown how much the department was capable of doing with what it had. And as this goes on, it will compound very quickly, and we will start to see more and more enforcement operations closer to South Africans across the country. But we have to recognize it's a massive increase in the effectiveness of internal immigration enforcement. It hasn't been experienced by everyone yet because there is essentially a backlog in these enforcement operations. through the underperformance of previous years. So we can really expect to see that more and more in the communities, in our metros, where there are opportunities, where there's heavy contestation for resources and for jobs. Chairperson, I've said Minister Schreiber cannot do it alone with 1.5 players. He cannot be the only one fighting the crisis of illegal immigration. I think we've seen over 51,000 deportations in the last year. But deportations, as it has been mentioned, it's not necessarily the most effective thing, but we have to do it. We have to implement the rule of law. But we do also need to be careful about going too far and vigilante actions. So an example is the Zairianization policy, and that gave us lessons that we can take from the 1970s, where President Mobutu Sese Seko decided that to expel the foreign shop owners and transfer their assets to Zairian nationals. So there was a great celebration. Local persons took over these businesses. The foreigners fled the country. But the policy proved to be an economic disaster, and primarily due to the lack of empowered entrepreneurial class to manage the seized businesses and rampant corruption amongst the new political elite who basically scooped up these shops. Stores ran out of stock, agriculture suffered, and the national wealth became concentrated in the hands of a few. So by the mid-1970s, facing economic collapse, the Mobutu government had to call the foreigners back between 1975 and 1976. So that collapse took only 2 years, Chair. So I think we need to learn from that lesson as well, in terms of saying we need to address illegal immigration, and we need municipalities to check trade licenses, to advise if a shopkeeper is illegal. We need our health departments to check food quality. We need the enforcement of bylaws. And as we look at Operation New Broom and this rapid increase in internal enforcement, I think the message is clear from Dr. Masiapato that these are much more effective when multiple stakeholders get together and get involved in these operations. So, Chairperson, I think we are making a tremendous amount of progress. We as a committee are touching on all of the issues that have been raised by the persons that have submitted this petition, and so we should monitor the progress that we're making, Chair. That is my recommendation of a way forward, that we are addressing each of the issues that have been raised here, and to make sure that we keep up the pressure to ensure that we see the kind of successes that we've seen to date. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ross. Honorable Ngubane.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair, as well, from my side. What I would like to appreciate, Chair, first and foremost, is to appreciate the leader of the March and March, Ms. Ngobese, that you have spoken for many vulnerable South Africans. It saddens me and it's painful to my heart as well to hear you trying by all means to beg your government to look after its own citizens. In actual fact, Ms. Ngobese, you were not even supposed to do this. This is a responsibility of a South African government. But we have failed you as a South African government. We have failed the citizen of this country as Home Affairs specifically. The memorandum you've submitted, it speaks about the ills that are well known but never attended to. We have become vulnerable in this country, and we've become a mockery of this country by lack of enforcement on many legislative pieces we have in this country. We really, really appreciate you, Ms. Ngobese, that you haven't even attempted to move to a level that has now Operation Tudula have moved into, where Operation Tudula have managed to go to hospital by hospital to check out foreigners themselves, because we lack enforcement in these enforcing of these laws. Thank you very much for not stooping that low, for tolerating, for just persevering and giving law enforcement and Home Affairs, even though they're failing us. But thank you for bringing these issues in a more professional way and humble way. And I promised you, hang in there. We're going to turn around this country. We support all what you guys are doing. And there are so many issues that probably you are not aware. There is Border Management Authority that is underfunded. There are weak laws enforcement. There are corrupt Home Affairs officials. Lately, you've heard the South African Navy captain of the Marine who said there are corrupt drug dealers who even want to replace the Navy manning of our borders by independent entities so that they do these corrupt activities themselves. There is even endless waiting for Treasury to fund Home Affairs for us to deal with these issues. There are even United Nations treaties, Ms. Ngobese, that we have signed that are negative to us managing our internal affairs in this country. There is a lot of things. One basic embedded issue out of these things is what we call one of the things bills for human rights, and the loopholes in the South African Constitution that is praised globally. That they say this is the best constitution in the whole world, where even the first world countries, the USA, the UK, the European countries don't have this highly appreciated constitution. One of the things, Ms. Ngobese, this constitution where it says the preamble that says South Africa belongs to all who live in it. And those are all the ills that are contributing to what you are complaining about. If I can tell you now, there is even, maybe you don't know, we don't have borders. We only have borders on the road. After that, we have just small fences and rivers where anyone can cross. I hope and have hope that one day in this country, hopefully, we will have Operation General Mkhwanazi at Home Affairs. One day, God will one day face us and have mercy on us. We appreciate as well Mr. Madumisa, not that we undermine what he has presented. They are trying, shame. They're trying by all means, but unfortunately, they're working backwards. They're trying by Operation New Broom. Minister is trying on the digitization, which has started way back by Minister Motsoaledi, and Minister Motsoaledi even procured these drones on the 6th administration. He procured, I think, around about 3 or 4 of them. And the Department of Home Affairs has counterintelligence divisions. And even Mr. Madumisa said he's got around about another new 17 operations that they are trying to do. Unfortunately, there is this lack of enforcement. There is neglect, weak laws, Ms. Ngobese. And I feel for you. Up till today, we don't have a document from Home Affairs of the statistics of illegal immigrants. Who are they? Who are coming here as business people? How much have they invested in this country? What employment have they created? Who are people who are not illegal immigrant? Same things that you've mentioned. Students, there are people who come in South Africa as students. They roam around the country with student visas, but they are not students. So there are so many ills of illegal immigrants. The reason why we cannot document this, you can't document what you can't manage. Home Affairs, Department of Health, Department of Police, Department of Small Business is failing to document illegal immigrant. They don't know how many spaza shop owners are owned by foreigners. They don't have numbers. They don't know how many illegal immigrants are coming to seek health in our Department of Health, who takes medicine and go back to their home countries. Police doesn't know how many killings and rapes that are done in Diepsloot by foreigners who don't have even identification. So we have so many problems that we can't manage in this country. And I really, Ms. Ngobese, we really apologize as South African citizens to cause these harms to you, for you to be insulted in your country of birth that you fought for, all of you, before 94. This freedom that you fought for, that is now enjoyed by foreign immigrants. Again, as Mr. Mohale has highlighted, the issue is much bigger than that. There is these foreigners of other race that you've never heard a thing about them, not even a word about them. They live large in this country. They come in, they live as they like. So hang in there, Ms. Ngobese. We'll solve this problem together. And we are all disgruntled as South Africans. We're not against legal migrants that comes here honestly, who are professionals, who works in banks, whom we share offices with them, work hand in hand with them, who are contributing immensely in this country to build this country. But we are against illegal immigrants. We are against Home Affairs that is corrupt, where they have a Lindela, where they have people that are supposed to be deported, but they drop them here at Sunnyside and they take 2,000 rand from them. And they dropped them here at Home Affairs and they said, see what you can do. The problem is much bigger than that. Home Affairs has failed us, but they are trying to turn the corner, Shem. And it's difficult, and government has cut the budget all over, and we will get there. The issue is bigger than that. You can't document what you don't know. The reason we cannot document these illegal immigrants is because they just come in like they're going to the next door bathroom. They come in, jump the borders, take whatever they want to take out, went out. And some of these drug lords are even colluding with the police. As I said to you, I wish one day God will turn his face to us, that will have Operation General Mkhwanazi at Home Affairs. Of all these ills that are being, we are put on our South African citizens in a wrong way. Sorry for what we have done, but we will work very hard to solve the issues of this country. There are people who don't like us to solve all these problems you have mentioned, because they benefit from them. We have business people who are hiring foreigners in their restaurants everywhere, but are not prioritizing South Africans. We have labor departments that can't go inspect who is employing illegal immigrant and give them salaries in over South Africans. There is a lot happening. But thank you for presenting this. And as MK Party, we support your presentation and everything of it. And we will work hand in hand to make sure that we turn the corner, and our country sooner or later will be the best country for our kids to live in, where they're not harassed by foreigners, where they're not insulted by foreigners, where they're not made a joke by foreigners, where they say your country is a banana republic and no laws, there are no police that can take us to prison. Will come out the next day. Thank you very much, Chair. I end there.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ngubane. Honorable Bolman.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would like to begin by recognizing that while we might not all agree with every claim made in the March and March memorandum, we must accept and respect that these are genuine concerns from members of the public about crime, about safety, and the presence of undocumented individuals in our country. Their concerns stem from lived experiences on the ground, and as public representatives, we have a duty to treat those concerns seriously and factually. I would also like to, at this point, take the time to thank Ms. Ngobisi Zuma for her passion on the issue, raising her voice. I think the more people speak up on issues that affect them and they feel are important, the better it is for us in government to prioritize these issues. I think secondly, Chair, we have recently been reminded that illegal immigration is not the responsibility of a single ministry. As I said in my last speech in the House, if everyone leads, no one leads. And without a coordinated multidisciplinary operation, and I include here, Chair, all three spheres of government, we create gaps, and those gaps are exactly what people exploit as weaknesses in the system. Chair, this is not a new issue. It is the result of more than 30 years of institutional erosion, capacity decline, and fragmented enforcement. And like any vortex, the problem tightens the longer it spins without proper controls. And that is precisely why this issue raised in the memorandum cannot be addressed by Home Affairs alone. A coordinated multi-departmental approach is not optional, it is essential. We must also acknowledge that the problems we currently are facing in the immigration environment are directly linked to decades of poor financial allocation to Home Affairs. The department cannot be expected to manage 21st century migration pressures with outdated systems, with insufficient personnel, and a budget that has not kept pace with its mandate. If we do not increase expenditure to Home Affairs urgently, these challenges will worsen and will not improve. There is also a clear and urgent need for legislative review, and we are encouraged that the department is already driving some of these reforms. But legislation alone will not solve the problem. We must also remove the incentives that make unlawful entry appealing to these folk. International research consistently shows that closing access to illegal employment opportunities is far more effective than large-scale deportation operations. In the United States, for an example, it states that implemented mandatory e-verification requiring employers to verify the legal work status of every employee saw vastly higher compliance, fewer illegal sent entries, and far fewer repeated crossings. And when employment is no longer an easy option, unlawful entry becomes far less attractive. South Africa is moving in this direction. Of course, we have the digital identity system currently being developed under Minister Schreiber, which will enable the department to eliminate fraudulent documents, stop multiple IDs, prevent ghost beneficiaries, and ensure that every person, citizen or foreign national, can be accurately verified. However, identity verification alone is not enough. It must be supported by municipal enforcement of bylaws. It must be proper resourcing of border management, including transferring SAP's border units to the BMA, as my colleague Honourable Roos mentioned earlier, and then the strong intergovernmental cooperation and a commitment to uphold the rule of law without fear or favour. Chair, in closing, the concerns raised in the memorandum deserve a clear, coordinated and factual response. Strengthening immigration control requires cooperation across all levels of government, supported by modern systems, adequate resourcing and legislative reform. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Bolman. Honourable Matopa.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me also take the opportunity to appreciate Mrs. Ngobeze Zuma's presentation, and let me also align myself with Honourable Ngubane in his opening remarks. Chair, this is not driven by political agendas. It's our people's realities, daily realities of fearing of their safety, their security, and so forth, Chair. Very important to note that, Chair, we don't seek to undermine any law. Honourable members, this is about protecting citizens, enforcing the law and ensuring accountability. We need measurable outcomes. The challenges remain. Citizens are still affected heavily. Chair, I wish we could see much more improvements than what the department is already doing, with the challenges that the departments are also faced with. I wish we could really see a lot of improvements. Because we don't actually see the difference. They are trying their best in implementing interventions, changing the policies. However, there's still much more that needs to be done, as this is not only affecting the people of South Africa, it's also affecting our departments, correctional services, our health system, our local social economic developments, and we really need a lot that needs to be done, Chair. And going on the presentation that was given, Chair, it states that the right to dignity. The right to dignity should not surpass the law. And then you would ask the question, what about South African people's dignity? When we look around us, how our people are living, is that the dignity our people has fought for? And is that the dignity that we, as public representatives, see it fit that our people can live in such conditions, and then call that's the dignity that they need to live in? Also coming to the legal contradiction which create loopholes exploited by undocumented migrants, Chair. I would just like to pose this two questions, in fact. How do contradictions between the Immigration Act, the Refugees Act, and the Citizenships Act create loopholes exploited by undocumented migrants? What immediate legal amendments does the department prioritize to close these loopholes? And Chair, there was a time that the Patriotic Alliance went and camped at the borders, fighting the very same issues that Mrs. Ngobeze has highlighted. We have went and camped at the borders to show the world that we don't have borders. So, Chair, in closing, we have deliberated on this matter, and it's not going to end here, because this issue is really a hindering issue in affecting our communities in all aspects, in all departments. So, Chair, I would like to say that we as a committee should strive to monitor, to see the differences, to see success, and to see that the safety and security and sovereignty of South Africans is protected. I would like to end there, Chair. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Honorable Matopa. Honorable Machi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon to our guests, my colleagues, our respective officials led by the Minister of Home Affairs. I was having some questions, but no, I'm just to talk to these very shortly to these two presentations. I'll start by appreciating Mr. Dumisa for his presentation, which was carrying a little bit of the hope at the end. And what I like most is that of working together to our country will be saved if we can work together. We even talk about unity. If we can be united, we can make it a point that our people are being saved. It is not a one-man show, but it needs all of us. When it comes to maybe to the last debate. I think it was on Thursday, where he stated that everybody should note that these concerns that we are getting all over are not only being shared by millions of South Africans, but also acknowledged by the Minister of Finance, who has recognized the growing strain that illegal immigrants places on our already barren focus. Thank you very much also to Miss Ngobese Zuma. Your presentation left me crying. It left me crying. If by a miracle I can be maybe forwarded or given an opportunity that tomorrow or this afternoon I'm given an opportunity to renew or to review the constitutional or the Constitution of South Africa, I can start by this one, the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights. When they used to say South Africa belongs to everyone who lives in it. So they came here, they stay here. When they're just here, they used to say, no, we're free in this South Africa. I remember, maybe Chair and colleagues will remember, the other time we were dealing with this issue when there was Professor Tuli Madonsela, who is now working, I think, in one of the universities. We're talking about this issue. In my last debate, when I was closing debate, there was a last sentence which was saying South Africans should come first. That was my last sentence when I was closing that debate. Miss Ngobese, it's very unfortunate, my dear sister, that we female, especially female Africans, are also contributing to these immigrants to stay here in South Africa. They don't want to go back to their places. They came here, didn't even know one another. We fall in love with them. Tomorrow, they are getting married with them. They don't have real love. They want a citizen. So then if now they want the citizenship, after that, they will stay with us. I'm very sorry. But concerning this issue of sponsorship also, it's we as Africans who are giving these illegal foreigners the places to rent. Others used to build the two-room as if it's the room for his own children or his or her own family. Thereafter, you see that the sponsorship, that sponsorship is being rented by the illegal foreigner. We are also contributing. So I'm just going back to the first one, I'm very sorry, Mr. Madumisa, who said it's not for one person. We should be united. If we can be united, they want these South African women won't marry these illegal foreigners. Let us fight together. Let us not just point some eyes or point some weapons to one direction, but let us all work together in unity. But thank you very much. We'll make it a point that we are assisting one another to pave the way forward. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
For the response, can I invite Ms. Ngobese Zuma to comment also? Thank you.
Thank you so much, honorable members, and really appreciate your responses and the insights that we have been given. And for us, it really is heartwarming to know that our voices have been heard. We've been kicking and knocking on doors, especially for this department and for this day to finally be here is really, I think it's a sense of relief for a lot of South Africans. But I must say that it's disappointing that we have members who are here in Parliament and they are trying to glorify illegality, blatantly stating that we know they're here illegally, but use the racial or the race card to kind of spare them of any blame. When a person leaves and comes into a country illegally, you can't blame the government only. That person also took a conscious decision to come into a country illegally and break that country's laws. So they are as much to blame as the government of that country. And for statistics, I can safely say that I'd like to invite members of parliament to come to the ground. I know sometimes the temptation to speak about things from higher up is easier when you don't know the experience of people who are down there. So maybe just those who would like to get the data, leave your cars, leave your high walls, come with us on the ground. Any day we will take you to people with real lived experiences. I can take you just downtown here where every single shop is owned by people from outside. Every single salon is owned by people outside. People of South Africa are working for them. And in those salons, they're dealing drugs. But you report this and the police are also working with them. And the police will tell you, we arrest them. But when we get to the police station, a certain so-and-so will call us and arrest them. These are things that we live on an everyday. So I'm not sure if people's everyday lived experiences do not compensate as data. Maybe that would help as well to highlight some of these things that we're not targeting Black migrants, but unfortunately we are importing very poor people from outside of South Africa and coming to South Africa to compete with poor people. That is why we've got such a problem with resources that are meant to be for public and not for the public. They are instead being used by people who are not South African. And we've got a problem with schools, we've got a problem with hospitals. And if these people were not poor and they were these other race that you are saying, maybe we wouldn't know this, maybe we wouldn't have them in our communities. But unfortunately, we live in poor communities. We live with the people who are not in your higher class. So unfortunately, I think it'll take someone of higher class to identify those that are illegal immigrants and are of different races from higher class. We don't mind also going to target them, but we were just trying to help the poor in this country because we do know that majority of the poor and relying on the welfare of the country, same welfare that is being paid by those in the high class. So it's really, what do I call it? But it's a system that's integrated because if you are taking care of the people and make sure that lives are sustainable, eventually they will eat into your pockets because we are the ones that are going to be paying for whatever is going on in those communities. And we're going to pay not only in terms of money, we're also going to pay in terms of the violence that's going to erupt when poor people are competing amongst themselves, the poor little scrams that they have. Currently, we had the city of Joburg forcing them.
Okay, she got cut off, Mr. Matonzi.
Yes, Chair. I think she got cut off. Let me just check.
I think we've made our point, all of us.
I'm so sorry, I got cut off.
Yeah, if you can wrap up.
Yes, I'll wrap up quickly. But some of the stats do highlight that 70% of files, for example, in hospitals in Johannesburg are foreigners. And there's also 15% of prisoners in prison are actually people who are foreigners. And that's a huge number. The Hawk said 60% of all organized crime is done by people who are foreigners. There's a number of teachers who've come forward and they've complained that the overcrowding in schools has led them to a language barrier where they don't know how to communicate with children. So it's really not a target of any individuals. It's really the reality of people who are facing every day, and the poorest of the poor are the ones that are suffering. And we also have people who are benefiting from illegal immigrants, as mentioned, in terms of cheap labor. And these people don't pay taxes. And I'd just like to respond to Honorable Ruiz in the mention that foreigners and tuck shops and there was a loss that happened there. Unfortunately, or luckily for South Africa, we won't experience that because tuck shops have always been an economy that was owned by Black South Africans. We grew up, there was Ntombela shops. All these tuck shops were owned by South Africans. So we're just taking back the economy of South Africans back to South Africa. And I don't foresee us as a country failing to do that, reclaiming what we had lost to people who are not South Africans. And also, I just want to say that I hear a lot of people every time we raise issues of concerns for South Africans. They talk about the law, which is very important for the running of the country. We need to be a legal country. We need to work on the confines of the law. But the messaging is not the same because it seems like the law only applies to South Africans. It's South Africans that must respect the law. It's South Africans that the law must be enforced to. Currently, we had a march in Point Road, and there's a guy who poured paint on people who are marching peacefully. Until this day, the police have never attended to that person who was a non-South African. And so on, it goes on and on and on because there were cigarettes found on the same day, kidnapped children same day that were found. But until then, nothing has been done. So the message that government is communicating to our people is that the law applies only to South Africans. And that is going to lead to a situation where we feel like we are oppressed the same way that people were oppressed during apartheid government. And by then they ended up not regarding the law, because if we do not respect the law as implementing agents of the law, then you are sending a message to the people that you yourself should not be respected as people who are parliamentarians or people who are enforcing the law. So when it comes to the law, can we be consistent, and can the law apply to everyone, not just South Africans? It must not be used as a law that must be to intimidate South Africans, to say keep quiet or shut up or don't do this or don't do that, or else you are xenophobic and this and that. I can assure you there's not a single South African who woke up in the morning and was xenophobic, because we've lived with people from all walks of life in this country and we've embraced them and we've loved them. But it's come to a point where they have abused us, taken us for granted because our government has allowed them to, because our government has prioritized them and made them feel like they have some sort of importance over South Africans. So now we're in a situation where our people are becoming desperate. There are mothers that I know who don't have IDs for their children, yet you'll have a Chidima going on Instagram bragging that she's in Cape Town after stealing someone's identity, and we were told that her identity was revoked. How is she in South Africa if we are saying that we're implementing the law? So I'm just going to wrap up. Thank you so much for that. But please, can we not be put in a situation where people are pressured into a point of desperation, because it is going to lead to a point of violence. And I'm not saying I'm condoning violence, but people are becoming desperate to be heard and for this to be solved. And I think it needs to get to a point where it's a priority number one on every single parliamentary agenda. Thank you.
What we thought we are assisting all of us, and I'm sure you listen carefully to all members of parliament or the committee and the department in terms of the framework which we have noted, both the reports and the issues that have arisen. I'm trying to don't want to spoil your issues that have been raised. I'm trying to balance them with your closing comments.
Mina nawe sidibane kwivideo elandelayo. Ngicela ukuza ukuphawula kwakho la comment section. Ilokho nje ngingakusho into asezirayizile uMangobe soganele kwaZuma seziningi kakhulu.